So apparently a sequel to I Am Legend is officially in the works. And you know what? This news came as a complete but welcome surprise to me. So much so that I found myself wanting to revisit and cover this movie and its grim universe. As such, I figured what better way to talk about I Am Legend than by adding it to my Could You Survive series. And as it turns out, there's an alternate ending to this film that will be considered the main canon once the second movie is released. Which, by the way, said alternate ending was vastly superior to the theatrical ending we all got back in 2007. There's also some interesting bonus content on the DVD version of this film, and apparently this movie is also based on a book, wherein the infected were actual vampires, instead of zombie vampire hybrids. Hell, there's even an old black and white adaptation of this story. But for this thought experiment, I'm obviously going to be covering the Will Smith-led cinematic version of I Am Legend, simply because it's more interesting to me. And I'm willing to bet it's more interesting to you as well. Therefore, I'm going to be breaking down the Krippin Virus and its legendary Darkseekers in order to determine whether or not you could or could not survive this world-ending pandemic. So sit back and relax, because this shit's gonna be fire. As per usual, in order to determine your odds of survival, we're gonna have to first analyze the primary threat of the I Am Legend universe, being the zombie vampire hybrids known as the Darkseekers. These creatures boast superhuman strength, speed, and stamina, along with an extremely acute sense of smell, being capable of detecting a single droplet of blood from several yards away. Odds are they also have augmented sight and hearing as well. They're also freakishly agile, being able to scale entire apartment buildings in seconds, like deranged tweakers desperately searching for their next high. But what truly sets these monstrosities apart from their volatile counterparts in Dying Light is their ability to form social hierarchies and even relationships. That's right, they're surprisingly intelligent, possessing the capacity to hunt in packs, communicate and coordinate as a cohesive unit to utilize real-time tactics, and they're even shown being capable of setting intricate traps. Hell, they're even known to track their prey, waiting for the perfect time to strike. And if that's not enough to scare you, these assholes can also tame infected superdogs, using them to hunt their human prey. But here's the good news. These nocturnal freaks are extremely susceptible to ultraviolet radiation. As such, they cannot traverse the post-apocalyptic landscape during the day, nor can they survive being inundated with UV lights for prolonged periods of time. Even during a cloudy or rainy day, UV radiation never hits zero. So you'll be safe so long as the sun is out or so long as you have UV equipment on you. They're also not as durable as the volatiles from Dying Light, as you can easily kill them with firearms and even knock their asses out with a well-placed rifle smack. And given that Will Smith was able to kill them with ineffective chemical compounds, or failed cures, we can hence deduce that they can indeed be terminated by biochemical and biological weaponry. That being said, we do know they are somewhat resistant to such methods, as Dr. Neville had to use 6 times the dosage on a Darkseeker just to keep them sedated under the influence of anesthesia. And if you're trying to remain hidden from these apex predators, you're gonna need to use bleach to conceal your scent, just as Robert does in the movie. You're also gonna want to avoid large structures during the day, as the Darkseekers will likely use such locations as their hives or dens during the day. All in all, the Darkseekers are terrifyingly dangerous. While not as strong or durable as volatiles, their intelligence makes them far deadlier. These zombie vampire hybrids would be nearly impossible to survive at night, with your only real option being to hide or to utilize UV equipment in order to escape or at least keep them at bay. Within the lore of the I Am Legend universe, the Krippin Virus started off as a 100% effective cure for cancer. This cure was created by Dr. Alice Krippin, who modified the measles virus into some magical panacea for cancer. Some point after the clinical trials, which involved 10,009 test patients, the genetically modified virus further mutated into what it became in the movie. Then this highly contagious contagion rapidly went airborne and managed to decimate the global population after a failed military quarantine. This, of course, makes total sense, considering that the containment of an airborne pathogen is nearly impossible, especially in a city like New York, which was the epicenter of this contagion's outbreak. a literal international hub, which also so happens to be densely populated, basically being the perfect place to launch a global airborne epidemic. The Krippin virus went on to kill 90% of the global population at the time, thus eliminating roughly 5.4 billion people. Of these surviving 600 million, 9.8% of them became Dark Seekers, and only 0.2% remained immune to both the virus and its transformative effects. Now, according to the lore, the Krippin virus takes up to 48 hours to fully develop. During said time, those afflicted with this disease will experience fevers, bleeding from the eyes, profuse vomiting of blood, and cold sweats. We're also told that the infected experience rabies-like symptoms. Once the 48-hour mark arrives, the infected individual either dies or begins to rapidly turn into a Dark Seeker, hence devolving into a more primal creature with an insatiable bloodlust for human flesh. Interestingly enough, we know from the DVD's bonus content that those who become Dark Seekers actually perceive uninfected persons as monsters, which is kinda wild when you think about it. We also know that the Krippin virus is capable of infecting mice and rats, along with canines. These afflicted animals tend to turn far faster than we humans for some reason, yet the virus doesn't affect other wildlife. We also know that dogs and wolves are immune to the airborne strain, but not to the bloodborne pathogen, and this may very well be true for mice and rats as well. According to this chick, the virus did not do very well with the cold, hence allowing for immune survivors to settle up north in Vermont. But this is never really 100% confirmed, nor is it stipulated which strain of the virus is weak to the cold. It also didn't seem to do jack shit to the infected in New York City, and trust me, as a former inhabitant of the Empire State, it can get pretty fucking cold up there. Cold enough to freeze large portions of the goddamn Hudson River. All in all, the Krippin virus is a nightmarish calamity that would be incredibly difficult to survive, largely due in part to its airborne nature. So, given all of the information we've covered thus far, could you realistically survive a global Krippin virus pandemic? Simply put, almost every single one of you would fucking die. If you're not in a desolate location, or living out at sea, or if you don't have some supremely stocked and secure doom bunker, you're likely going to die at some point when you come into contact with the airborne strain of the virus. With a 0.2% chance of immunity, you're more likely to win some cash from a scratch-off ticket than you are to survive being exposed to this world-ending contagion. And if you somehow manage to win the genetic lottery, granting you immunity to both the airborne and bloodborne strain of the Krippin virus, you'd still have to contend with the total collapse of human civilization. No power grid, no water treatment and distribution systems, no readily available food, no reliable lines of communication, the eventual end of modern medicine, and every other issue you can think of when it comes to post-apocalyptic survival. And yes, this includes the potential risk of being slaughtered by desperate and malicious survivors, especially during the fall of human civilization. But that isn't all you're going to have to worry about, because by the time all is said and done, you're going to be outnumbered by the Dark Seekers by a factor of 49 to fucking 1. And that figure doesn't even represent infected canines and rodents. Oh, and remember, they're not stupid. They're going to be actively hunting you in fucking packs, watching your movements and even potentially setting traps. Suffice it to say, even winning the genetic lottery isn't guaranteeing your survival in the long run. Now, in order to survive, you're gonna need a secure and self-sufficient location. You're gonna need access to electricity and the ability to continue fueling the production of said utility. You're gonna need UV equipment, plenty of bleach to erase your scent, and you'll have to keep track of time in order to avoid being out at night. You're gonna have to be careful not to get yourself spotted or tracked or trapped either. Entering the wrong building at the wrong time could end your run. Getting lost or facing unforeseen car troubles might cause you to be stuck out at night. One error or careless mistake, and hordes of these murderous creatures will storm your hideout once the sun sets. And here's the scary part, no wall will ever be tall enough to keep them at bay. So yeah, if I'm being honest with all of y'all, most, if not all of us, would be cooked. We're literally gonna be charred. The Krippin virus and its Dark Seekers are literally gonna fold us like cheap lawn chairs and then Anyways, if you like this sort of content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell as well, that way you may be notified when I publish a new video. And if you haven't yet, please consider becoming a channel member as well. That way I can continue to entertain you. Also remember, always, that you may opine anytime if you feel so inclined down in the comment section. I'm Captain Gold, and I hope to see you in my next Gold Standard video.